एनडीटीवी के मैनेजिंग एडिटर और न्यूज एंकर रवीश कुमार फिलहाल अपने रेमन मैग्सेसे अवार्ड प्राप्त करने के लिए फिलीपींस की राजधानी मनीला में हैं। 9 सितंबर को पुरस्कार समारोह के आयोजन में एक कार्यक्रम में एक संबोधन के दौरान रवीश ने कहा कि हमारे लोकतंत्र की आत्मा हर दिन अथक हमले झेल रही है। आपको बता दें कि रेमन मैग्सेसे पुरस्कार को नोबेल पुरस्कार का एशियाई संस्करण माना जाता है और रवीश को ये पुरस्कार अपने निडर पत्रकारिता के लिए दिया जा रहा है। रवीश ऐसे सिर्फ छठे भारतीय पत्रकार हैं जिनको ये पुरस्कार मिला है। इससे पहले अमिताभ चौधरी, बीजी वर्गीस, अरुण शौरी, आर.के. लक्ष्मण और पी. साईनाथ को ये पुरस्कार मिल चुका है। आइए अब आपको समारोह के दौरान रवीश के द्वारा दिया गया पूरा भाषण सुनाएं।
Thankful to the Ramon Magsaysay Award Foundation for giving me this opportunity to put my views to the other part of the world. As you know that I am a pure Hindiwala, and for your benefit my friends have translated this lecture in English, so pardon my pronunciation and some misplaced articles in my lecture. 2 months ago, I was working towards my daily broadcast in my corner office when I received a call on my cell phone. The caller ID flashed that it was unknown international number from the Philippines. I was certain it was a troll call. For some reason, a lot of my troll call traffic comes from the Philippines. If they are all indeed living in the Philippines, then I would like to take this opportunity to welcome them also. I am here now. Anyways, coming back to that day, I turned around to my colleagues and asked her if she would be interested in listening to the language used by my trolls. I put my phone on loudspeaker and from the other end was greeted by a nice female voice which asked, "May I please speak to Mr. Ravish Kumar? I have received thousands of troll calls in my life but never from a woman." I quickly shut off the speaker and put the phone against my ear. In a sophisticated English, the woman went on to inform me that I have won the Ramon Magsaysay Award 2019. Flash forward to this. When I am here with you, I am not here alone. I have brought the entire world of Hindi journalism practiced by Ganesh Shankar Vidyarthi and Peer Munis Muhammad is silent today, even afraid. I am now going to address the topic of the day, power of citizen journalism. We are living in testing times as journalists and as a common citizens. Our citizenship itself is on trial right now, and make no mistakes about it. We need to fight back. We need to rethink our duties and responsibilities as citizens. I believe that in today's time, when the attack on our citizenship is all-encompassing and the state surveillance apparatus is more overbearing than ever, the individual or groups who are able to withstand this onslaught and emerge stronger from it will be the ones who lay the foundation for a better citizenry and, for that matter, maybe even better government in the future. Our world is filled with such determined citizens already who, in spite of pervasive hatred and manufactured information deficit, have chosen to fight back and bloom like the cactus does in the midst of barren, hopeless desert. Standing alone and surrounded by the ever-stretching deserts on all sides, the cactus does not think about the meaning of its existence. It stands there to let you know that it is possible. Wherever the fertile plains of democracy are being subverted into deserts, the exercise of citizenship and the fight for the claim over and right to information have become perilous but not impossible. Citizenship effectively requires a free flow of verifiable information. The state today has established full control over the media and the corporations. The implication of this control over the media, mainstream media, and in turn your information flow is that it limits and narrows the scope of your citizenship. In other words, the media controls diversity of the news stories and specifies what interpretation of news events are acceptable. The media is now a part of the surveillance state. It is not the fourth state anymore, but the first state. News channel debates take place within a vocabulary of exclusionary nationalism, wherein they seek to replace the collective history and memory of the nation with that of the ruling parties in their viewers in mind. There are only two types of people in this news universe narrative: the anti-nationals and us. It is the classic us and them technique. They tell us that the problem with anti-nationals is that they ask questions, disagree and dissent. Disagreement is the Atma, the spirit of democracy and citizenship. The democratic Atma is under relentlessly attack every day. When citizenship is under threat, or when its very meaning has been altered, then what happens to the nature of a citizen journalism? Both are citizens, those who claim to speak as the nation and the victim of their derision. There are many countries in the world where this regime, which co-opts the judiciary too, has gained legitimacy amongst people. And yet, when see what is happening in Hong Kong and in Kashmir, you realize that people are still out there fighting for their citizenship. Do you know why did the millions of people fighting for democracy in Hong Kong renounce social media? Because they could no longer trust a language that they know their government speaks better than them. And so they created their own language and communicated protest strategies and tactics in this newfound syntax. This is an innovative vision of the fight for citizenship. In order to save their right, the citizens of Hong Kong are creating spaces where lakhs of people now talk in a new register, where they fight in new innovative ways and gather at and disperse from protest sites in a matter of minutes, where they have created their own apps and have altered the use of electronic metro cards. They have modified their phone SIM card. The citizens of Hong Kong have challenged the government's effort to render citizenship hollow by refashioning objects of control into devices of liberation. The citizens of Hong Kong were willing and able to extricate themselves from the authoritarian network of information. This tells us that the state has not yet defeated citizenship. Kashmir is another story. An information and communication blackout imposed for several weeks, more than 10 million people cut off from any information trade whatsoever. There was an internet shutdown, mobiles were rendered useless. Can you imagine a citizen without information? What happens when the media, mainstream media, which is meant to gather, process and relay information, supports the shutdown of all sources of information? In doing so, the media stands against the citizen who is trying to learn about the world around her, not as a matter of curiosity in far-flung goings-on, but for her survival and her family's well-being. It is an unfortunate coincidence that most of India's neighbors are also its neighbors on the Press Freedom Index. India, Pakistan, China, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Myanmar all fall within 50 ranks of each other right at the bottom. of the International Press Freedom Index released by Reporters Without Borders. Freedom can have various manifestations. There is the freedom of saying what one wants, then there is the freedom of being able to refuse what one does not want to say. There is the freedom of being able to decide the course of one's speech and thought. And here I am referring specifically to the mainstream media. Note here that I am talking here about two of the most important nations in the Indian subcontinent. A few days ago, going down my Twitter feed, I encountered a notification issued by Pakistani Electronic Media Regulatory Authority, which gave clear directions to the country's news channel on reporting the situation in Kashmir, very aptly and unironically titled Advice. The directions in the notification included suspending all Eid celebration as a token of mourning, reporting news of so-called Indian atrocities on minorities, telecasting news which was in solidarity with Kashmiris, and observing 15th August as a Black Day. It was specific to the extent of recommending the use of only black and white colors on TV channels' logos on the 15th of August, which happens to be India's Independence Day. One wonders how such directions are to be followed. The visual drama of the television screen relies heavily on its use of colors, bright reds, green and yellows. I wonder how Pakistani news channels manage to work on the 15th with such a limited color spectrum since closer home in India. I cannot imagine Indian news TV channels to run their logos and graphics in less than 10 colors and shapes at any given point in the day. One merely has to look at the kind of headline which are used on Indian news channels with respect to Pakistan. Every night our 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. news shows design flashy, apocalyptic headlines turn every piece of casual news into an insult for Pakistan and keep viewers hooked while they have their dinner under the blaring cacophony of these anchors and their panels shouting themselves hoarse. Recently, the Press Council of India sent an application to our Supreme Court supporting the media ban in the Kashmir Valley, citing its commitment towards national interest and keeping up high standards of public taste. The Editors Guild took cognizance of the matter and issued a letter condemning the Press Council since the council was working against journalists. Well, of course, then, as was natural, the Press Council backtracked and issued a statement stating in bold letters that it does not support restrictions on the media now. Such incidents are almost amusing in their occurrence, but have grave implications on our freedom as viewers and citizens. Freedom here has become a farce. When those that are meant to safeguard the reporter's right to report make a mockery of freedom in such an obvious way, not only is our intelligence as viewers insulted, but the very imagination of citizen journalism begins to weaken. When mainstream journalism can neither support its own rights nor the sheer idea of journalism, citizen journalist and citizen journalism both are under a constant threat. The threat here is not merely on the practical implication of reportage, viewership or financial sustenance, but also on the atmosphere which should not enable the growth and nature of such hypocrisy and bankruptcy. Such media, and may I go so far as to claim that its audience too cannot stand by pure information and hard facts. Be it anywhere in the world, it has moved so far away from the foundational ideals and principles that it was imagined to, that it will, and it already does fail to see the irony and tragedy in the cases that I have just listed. This is the same media that promoted citizen journalism to reduce operating cost for itself. It outsourced its risk to you citizen journalism within mainstream journalism is different from citizen journalism outside mainstream journalism. In the early days of social media, when people began asking hard questions online, the old school media houses had turned against social media and critiqued it. Blogs and websites were blocked inside newsrooms. Even today, several newsrooms do not allow reporters to express their personal opinion. It is another matter, however, that when the 24-year-old woman Riverband started documenting the Iraq war and its devastation in the form of everyday blogs, and which was later published as the 2005 book Baghdad Burning, Girls Blog from Iraq. Prominent media houses from around the world considered that their reporters could not have done what this unnamed girl had done through social media. Today, if a Kashmiri girl decided to write a blog on the lines of Baghdad burnings, our mainstream media would label her as anti-national traitor. The media today is increasingly delegitimizing the space of citizen journalism because it is not interested or invested in journalism anymore. Under the garb of journalism, the media is today the comprador of the state. In my opinion, the citizen journalism is the need of the hour when the media and mainstream journalism turned hostile to information. When the struggle for information itself is described as anti-national and disagreement is decreed as treason, testing time is a meek euphemism for where we are today. When the media turns against the citizens, then it's time for citizens to take on the role of the media. She has to do so knowing that the chances of success are slim. In these times of state brutality and surveillance, the state has increasingly been opaque and blocking information. The mainstream media seeks profit maximization above everything else, and this singular motive compels it to serve as a PR agent of the state. Government advertising forms a huge chunk of revenue for the media today. Citizen journalism, on the other hand, is struggling to survive purely on public support, while staying outside the web of the government patronage and advertisers. India's mainstream media is working night and day to our citizens into post-illiterates. It has given up on trying to convert superstitious beings into rational thinking beings. Its syllabus is compromised on unthinking nationalism and communalism. The mainstream media has begun to consider the state's narrative as pure information. There are numerous news channels on the television, but manner and content of news on all these news channels is the same. Opposition is a derogatory word for this mainstream news media. India is a great nation and it has magnificent achievements to show for it that are preeminent in the world. However, a majority of its mainstream and television media has gone to the dogs. Indian citizens possess a great passion for democracy, but every night news channels arrive to trample over that passion. While evening in India may arrive with the setting of the sun, it is the reportage from news media that spreads the darkness of night. Democracy is actually alive and kicking among the people of India. Every day there are vociferous demonstrations against the government's policies, but the media has a screening process wherein it decides to keep these protests out of their bulletin. There is no reportage of these protests since for the media they are futile activity now. No democracy can be a democracy without public demonstrations. As a result, the people involved in these demonstrations have now begun recording videos themselves. In these videos recorded on their phones, They take on the role of journalists themselves, providing a breakdown of the scene of action, later sharing the videos on the WhatsApp groups of the participants in the demonstration itself. The definition of citizenship trumpeted by the media does not allow for the raising of slogans against the state. This is why citizens are attempting to preserve that essential part of themselves by creating videos of their WhatsApp group for their WhatsApp groups. They began to upload their videos on YouTube. Agitators began to practice such citizen journalism. By uploading their videos on YouTube, agitators have become citizen journalists. When the state and media unite to control citizens, is it possible for a citizen to be able to act as a journalist? This is a question to be asked everywhere in the world. To be a citizen and exercise the associated rights, it requires an ecosystem that has to be provided by the same democracy that the citizens belongs to. If the judiciary, police and media become hostile towards the citizen, the part of society that is aligned with the state begins excluding them, how much can we expect a defenseless citizens to fight? Yet, the citizen is fighting back. The cactus is coming alive. Every day I receive about 500 to 1000 messages on my WhatsApp, sometimes more. In every second message, people alongside their problems also write about what journalism means to them. Mainstream media may well have forgotten what journalism is, but the people remember how it should be defined. Every time I open my WhatsApp group to check for updates on my office group, I never even make it that far. Instead, I get caught up in the messages from thousands of people sharing their news. Trolls publicized my number in an attempt to send abuse my way. The abuse sharing their news. The abuse arrived as did threats. They continue to, but so did the people bringing with them their stories and news from their regions, stories and news that in the understanding of news channels were finished and irrelevant. When they faced trouble themselves, the viewers of these mainstream news channels realized what journalism means. The meaning of journalism has not yet been erased from their mind. When the ruling party boycotted my show, Prime Time, all paths were closed to me. At that time, it was these people who filled my show with their issues, as the mainstream media maintained the illusion of a functioning media among the people by outsourcing even voices against journalism and power in the name of citizen journalism. This group of citizens made me citizen journalist within mainstream media. This is the future of media. Its journalists need to become citizen journalists just so that people can be citizens. While the common people were being erased from the news channel and a single political agenda was being shoved down their throats, some people did not stop trying to break free of this nexus. In the midst of all the abuses and intimidation, the number of messages making demands on the government started rising. I started getting trolled by these issues of the people. They asked of me incessantly, "Will you not speak up for us? Are you afraid of the government?" I started listening to them. Prime Time's temperament changed. Thousands of young men and women began to message me, telling me how central and state administrations would not conclude examinations for government jobs even 2 or 3 years after they were declared. Jobs appointment letters would not be sent even after results were published. If I were to ballpark the number of youngsters involved in all these exams, then the number of men and women waiting for their results would come to around more than 1 million, 2 million, 3 millions or 10 millions. The impact of prime time's job series was soon felt, and many pending exam results were published and appointment letters issued. As late as 2018, the state I come from, Bihar, had not published results of exam conducted in 2014. My WhatsApp number has become a public newsroom when my secret sources within political parties and the government began to distance themselves from me. The public became my open resource and source. Prime time has become increasingly reliant on people's WhatsApp messages for its composition and creation. This was our subversion of WhatsApp campaign launched by those in power against me. On the one hand, party IT cells spread communal hate and xenophobia by bombarding broadcast lists and groups with millions of messages, and on the other hand, real news was traveling to me through the same medium. My newsroom has shifted from NDTV's newsroom to being amongst the people. There is still hope for India's democracy because neither have these people given up on their expectations from the government, nor have they stopped posing questions to the government. That is the reason why they are looking for an opening in mainstream media. While the mainstream media parroted the falsehoods that Indian universities were rising in global rankings, students from countless colleges sent me their classrooms and staff strengths, numbers and pictures. Had these students not approached me, how could I have reached out to college with 10 or 20 teachers and more than 10,000 students? Journalism is never complete without citizen and citizenships. It is an exercise of the latter in the service of the former. In times when media was defining the citizen per the state's service parameters, citizens began to define me in their terms. The cactus flowers of hope began to bloom in this democracy. I still remember the message I received from a girl in Chandigarh. She was watching my show Prime Time when her father turned off the television. She did not heed her father and went on watching the show. She is the citizen of India's future democracy. As long as that girl is there, democracy will be able to surpass the challenges in front of it. I want to mention here the many people who trolled me and abused me, but then apologized of their own accord. If I have received lakhs of abuses, then I have received thousands of such messages too. I also remember the boy from Maharashtra, one of India's states, who was so distraught by the hatred being spouted on a news debate on his shop's television that he left to find solitude elsewhere. When he tried to watch Prime Time at home, his brother and father insisted he turned it off because I am anti-national. The mainstream media and the IT cell have run this campaign against me, and they have run it well for the willing compliance of citizens in restricting the information available to them is a sign of legitimized surrender, abdication. I say this because in order to be a citizen journalist today, you have to struggle with the state and the citizen who is behaving per the state's desire. The challenge is not merely the state, but in equal and often greater measure, those who have act to supplement it will. The people who take it upon themselves to commit atrocities then that they think the state is too constrained to perform. Media and social media contributes to the process of isolating, silencing and intimidating citizens by placing them in the midst of mob, virtual and real. The perception of risk rises and the experience of fear paralysis. Today's citizens are under immense pressure. The challenge before them is to find out how to fight against this very own media, mainstream media, which runs its business in their name. We are at the moment in time when people will have to push against the barricade of the mainstream media if they want to reach the government. Otherwise, their voice will continue to haunt WhatsApp inboxes. The people will have to first become citizens and then remind the state that its duties also entails the creation and nurturing of an atmosphere of fearlessness where citizenship can flourish. The government is also responsible for creating an atmosphere where the state can be questioned. You can evaluate a government only when the media is independent and free during its time. After information, the next in line under attack is history, which gives us our strength or our inspirations. That history is being snatched away from us. It was the same during the independence movement. Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Mahatma Gandhi, Dr. Ambedkar, Ganesh Shankar Vidyarthi, Peer Muhammad Peer Muhammad, the list is endless. They were all citizen journalists. In 1917, during the days of Champaran Satyagraha, where I belong, Mahatma Gandhi told the press in a letter not come to Champaran for a few days and to stay away from the area. He then started meeting farmers and listening to their stories. The people of Champaran made a newsroom around Gandhiji. They started telling him about their complaints and provided proof. The history of India's independence struggle from then on is there for all to see. No nation could exist without news. The nation as community came about because the stories of those we thought our own stoked our imagination. Every nation is different and every nation is great. The curiosity and concern for the well-being of others and especially the weakest among us made our struggle for independence special. It is of utmost importance for any nation that information be factual. If information is not true and factual, trust between citizens will diminish. And that is why there is a dire need of citizen journalism once again. Journalism that is independent of the business strategy of mainstream media. Even in these times of despair, there are numerous people who are trying to fill the gap. From the comedians to YouTubers, they have tried to keep the essence of journalism alive. An exercise of citizenships in the service of citizens. It is their strength and determination. It is their strength and determination which has not let everything become one-sided in India's democracy. Even if they may have not won the battle, the people continue to fight. In his prayer meeting on the 12th of April 1947, Mahatma Gandhi discussed newspapers. His comments can indeed be quite useful for today's divisive media. Gandhiji recounted how a leading newspaper of the time had published a report alleging that no one in the Congress working committee was paying any heed to Mahatma. He responded by saying that if the newspaper were not going to be authentic, if the newspapers were not going to be authentic, then India's freedom was of no use. Newspapers are scared today. Any criticism is misconstrued into an invective against the nation. My criticism of the mainstream media, and in particular of news channels, is intended for the sole purpose of my great country. India's newspapers and news channels, be it in any language, incite and provoke conflict between communities. Gandhiji had said, you should throw away these wretched newspapers. If you want any news, information, ask each other. If you do want to read, then carefully choose those newspapers which are being run in the service of India and India's citizens. In this context, the condition of Hindi newspapers are very bad today. Those that teach Hindu and Muslims to stay together are rare to find in mainstream media today. And had Gandhi been alive today, he would have said what he did on the 12th of April 1947 and what I am repeating here today. We are in urgent need of citizen journalists during today's time, but even more than that, we need a citizen democrat. We are in urgent need of citizen journalists during today's times, but even more than that, we need the citizen democrat. I would like to thank the millions of NDTV viewers across the world, especially in India. I am thinking about all my colleagues at NDTV. I am thinking about Dr. Pranay Roy and Radhika Roy, to what consequences they are going to face after this speech. My journalism is in Hindi, but I have received love across all languages in India: Marathi, Gujarati, Bangla, Ahomia, Malayalam. I belong to everyone. India turned me into a citizen. I will always remember my history professors. They are the best in the world. I am also thinking about my idol Anupam Mishra ji, who came to Manila with Chandi Prasad Bhatt ji. I miss Anupam ji a lot. My friends in NDTV and outside NDTV are very valuable for me. They are the real support for me. My daughters and my life partner Noina is here. I have walked in Noina's footsteps to arrive here. I hope you too will follow in the footsteps of intelligent women. I hope you become good citizens, fearless citizens. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much for that speech to our Magsaysay awardee. We now go into the reaction from our discussant, Richard. Up to you. You can do it from there or from here.
All right. Thank you very much again for this invitation. I'm not a full-fledged journalist, although I'm dabbling into journalism in the past few years, thanks to our politics nowadays. So it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to meet you, Ravish, and congratulations to you. And congratulations.
Bureau Report, Punjab Today TV.
If you like our channel, please subscribe, and to get notifications about news, please click the bell icon.